What's going on, everyone? So, the Sacramento Kings are looking to trade Malik Monk. They want to get off of Malik Monk as well as Devin Carter. They've been trying to trade Malik Monk pretty much all offseason. They are trying to work on a trade for Jonathan Kuminga. However, the Golden State Warriors do not want Malik Monk in that trade. So, for those that are like, oh, we'll just trade him in the Kuminga trade, they do not want Malik Monk as part of the Kuminga trade. The Sacramento Kings are trying to trade Dario Saric as well as Devin Carter in order to land a Jonathan Kuminga, and that's where I've talked about like they would have to buy a player out. They're looking to trade maybe DeMar DeRozan to a team like the Miami Heat, right? So there's a lot of moving components, and that's why I've said like we should keep an eye on the Sacramento Kings because depending on how the dominoes fall, there could be all kinds of guys that end up getting bought out, that end up getting, on the trade block that teams aren't interested in, that maybe the Lakers come in and maybe make a move, make a consolidation trade, do all kinds of things with, especially with all these moving parts and components. But I want to talk about Malik Monk in particular. Him being on the trade block. Lakers need scoring off the bench. They're one of the worst offensive benches in all of basketball. I know the Lakers have a ton of scoring already, and kind of the last thing they need is scoring, but all those scoring guys, unless they bring Rui off the bench and bring Austin Reeves off the bench, which I think is a little unlikely. Malik Monk does make some sense. He can play off ball. He can play on ball. He's played well alongside De'Aaron Fox and stuff. So he's a guy that, is also comfortable in that sixth man role. He got his kind of shot with the Lakers and was one of the real bright spots on that, 2021 roster. That was just abysmal, but he was one of the real bright spots, bet on himself, and ended up getting a real contract with the Sacramento Kings and is now in a new contract. I wouldn't hate a Malik Monk. I would look at the Malik Monk trade if you can consolidate, right? So if Sacramento doesn't land Jonathan Kuminga, they're a team that you might be able to work out a deal in order to clear some salary because they are hard capped at the first apron, but they're $7.5 million from that first apron hard cap. So as it stands right now, they're a team that maybe we could work something out to where you could acquire a Malik Monk, maybe clear some salary. You could look at a DeMar DeRozan, something like that, but I think that it's possible that they end up buying him out or they end up moving him, or if they don't land Kuminga, then they'll probably keep him. They want to get off Malik Monk. Malik Monk makes some sense for the Lakers as a scorer off the bench, especially if you can move off, like, say, a Gabe Vincent or something. You can go Malik Monk with Marcus Smart off the bench, kind of have that scoring punch, a guy that can, go and give you some buckets. But to me, it's not so much about Malik Monk as it is Malik Monk plus another player. The biggest problem with landing Malik Monk is he has a player option the year that the Lakers want to kind of have clean sheets, and it's $21 million or a little over $21 million that I don't think he's going to opt out of. Right? I think he would most likely opt in. Maybe do a deal where, because he'd be 30 at that point, so maybe he'd do a deal where maybe he'd opt out and do a longer term trade if it were, or a longer term deal if it works with the Lakers, or maybe the Lakers can maybe look to move him because he'd be an expiring contract at that point. So I don't know if the Lakers would look to move into that. There are talks that like the 2027 thing is overblown. I think it's overblown because, again, if Ayton works out, you're going to have to pay Ayton. You're going to have to pay Austin Reeves unless you end up trading him, and he could make anywhere from 30 to 50 million, right? Like, I just don't see them being able to preserve the cap space that they're talking about next season, right? Malik Monk is a guy that I think several teams would have interest in, and, maybe you could work something out to where you're kind of shedding some salary as well as bringing in a bucket getter off the bench for you that can come in, be a playoff performer, be a guy that, can kind of fill in spots, right? He has to be okay with that. He has to be comfortable with that, but he's been that even in Sacramento, so I don't think he'd be, out of it. The only problem is he usually closes for Sacramento, so I don't know if I would close with him, right? But he's a guy that I could still see getting 25 plus minutes a night and, some nights playing even beyond that. If a guy gets the night off, guy that can play on ball, off ball, that doesn't really give you the defense that you're looking for. But again, to me, Lakers still need scoring. He's one of the best scorers off the bench in basketball, right? So he's a guy that could be that 6th man of the year candidate that could come in and, just provide that. But to me, it's more about you land Monk and then also clear off salary that you'd be looking to do, as well as bring in another guy or two. There's Nikola Vucevic, that there's a lot of talk and buzz kind of hyping up to him potentially being bought out, right? So like if you could land Malik Monk and also end up, clearing, say, 5 to 7 million off your books, right, and maybe do something, work something out, then that to me might be worth it. It also depends on what you'd have to give up for Malik Monk, right? But like you could go to a team like Sacramento and be like, hey, we have the expiring contracts to kind of help you get off of guys. I wouldn't want to trade Rui, which they would probably want Rui, just because, I just think we should still keep Rui, and I think that now you have that contract then and go trade. I would try to do something like a Gabe Vincent, right? Kind of use him as a two-way kind of guard, especially with DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine. I could do something like that in a Maxi Kleber that gives them kind of that floor spacing big man, right? And then maybe you throw in a Dalton Connect or something like that. So, you're looking at a guy in Malik Monk who's making this season a little over I think it's 17 or it's 18 million, 18.7 million, right? Then he has 20 million and then 21.5 million. So you're talking 18, almost 19 million. Right. So if you could do something where you're doing like like I said, a Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleber, and a Dalton Connect, bring in Malik Monk, you clear, like I said, like 6 million, 7 million off your books, and in that process, then maybe it would make some sense, because now you could bring in a Nikola Vucevic, you could bring in another guy, you're clearing 2 roster spots, maybe you bring in a DeAnthony Melton and a Vucevic, right? So now all of a sudden you got your backup center, you got that kind of two-way guy, if Jeremy Grant or some of these other guys get bought out. Personally, I think the Lakers should probably stay away from Malik Monk, if I'm being honest. It's just, that would be my argument for, right, landing Malik Monk. My argument against is primarily just the years that he has on his contract. And, he is making six-man money. Like, I don't think he's overpaid, right? Especially when you look at the stats and stuff like that. But I don't think, like, I'm fine getting a bucket. Like, Malik Monk off the bench, I think would be great. Right? I think adding him as a sixth man would be fantastic. Give you some scoring, give you that scoring punch off the bench on a nightly basis. A lot of people have wanted, a Jordan Clarkson and these guys, where I think Malik Monk kind of gives you a lot of those things. He give you the playmaking, all of that. If you were to trade Austin Reeves at some point, right, you could still leave Malik Monk off the bench, and then now he can kind of play a more two-way role, expanded role, where he's making plays as well as scoring the basketball, so you can kind of maximize him a little better. I do think that there are some benefits, but I just think, he's undersized. Would Sacramento want to help the Lakers essentially clear off salary? Probably not. Not without being compensated as such, but I don't think it's worth giving up a first or anything like that. Again, if it's something where it's like, hey, we're giving you a young guy in Dalton Connect that could be a floor spacer and shooter for you. You're getting a floor spacing big man, getting a Gabe Vincent who can slot in, kind of be that two-way point of attack 3-and-D guard for you. Now you have like him, and basically he could be the guy that slots in at the point for them to kind of be the initiator alongside the guys that are out there to score and be the bucket getters and play off ball and hit shots. If they'd be open to something like that, then sure, get that happen, clear some salary space, right? You'd be doing them a service and benefit. If you can do that, again, I don't hate it. To me, it just depends on like who are the Lakers signing in that process, because Lakers want to do a consolidation trade. But one of the things that I've talked about is like, I don't want to see the Lakers just do a consolidation trade just to do a consolidation trade. I want it to be a consolidation trade where they get a player that can help the roster back. Right? And Malik Monk is a guy that could definitely help the roster back. Is he the ideal scenario? No. Right? Like, again, a DeMar DeRozan off of a buyout, a Bradley Beal off of a buyout. The reason I was so big on that was, obviously the scoring off the bench, but they would have been so cheap it was worth it. Where Malik Monk, you're paying $20 million next year, and then he's probably opting in on the player option, which is $21 million. It's just that I think could potentially hurt the Lakers at some point, unless you can, package him in a deal to go and make a trade or something, or, find a team that really just needs a bucket-getting guard, something. But Malik Monk is kind of that, Lou Williams type role, coming off the bench, giving you production. But he is a guy that plays. Look at the last handful of years, 76 games, 77 games, 72 games, 65 games was the worst he's had in the last few years. You look at the minutes played, 32 minutes per game, 14.4 field goal attempts per game, shot 43.9% from the field. His three-point shooting last year was not great, though. He shot 32.5%. However, when he was with the Lakers, he shot 39.1% on 6 attempts. So can he get back to that? Especially playing alongside LeBron James and Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves as a guy that can be that floor spacer. If he can get back to that, 2-point range, 53.4% on 8 attempts, EFG of 51.3%, Free throw percentage, 86.5% on 2.7 attempts. He is a career 85% guy, so good free throw shooter. 4 rebounds, just under 6 assists, a 5.6 assist, a steal, round up, say a block, and 17.2 points per game. So he's a guy that, he can create some advantage plays, make some plays for others, score the basketball. Again, it's not my ideal scenario. It's not somebody that I'd be running to the door to go and get and acquire, but he is somebody that, if Sacramento's willing to work with you in a way to, like I said, free up salary, open up some roster spots, you're getting a guy that can make some sense, that you can have in a scoring punch off the bench, can help carry over an 82-game season, come playoff time, when you're sending Luka and Reeves and these guys off the bench, you can have a Malik Monk in there, then go and generate, get you buckets, give you, 15 a night, whatever, right? And just have him kind of be aggressive. I don't hate it, but let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.